was gonna sit there. Can I sit with you? Is that allowed? Squish. Good morning. Good morning to you too. Oh, thank you. A few weeks ago, I was rearranging my studio here, and I bemoaned having all of these random bits of yarn, random skeins really, that I got for various projects, because I don't do a lot of yarn-based projects. So I end up with just like, I don't know, random skeins. Actually, I think I cut that bit out of the video. I think what annoys me about yarn is that so many of the projects that I've done that needed yarn did not actually use that much of it. So like clearly I've got quite a bit here. And why? Why do I have all this? All of it, or most of it, I've used small amounts of it. But then I just have a ton left over. Whereas with fabric, it's like if I'm going to use that piece of fabric, I most likely am using up all of it, or at least most of it, to where whatever is left over is a scrap. I gotta stop cutting stuff out of videos and then referencing it in later videos. Anyway, I sort of have a bunch of random yarn that I don't know how to use up because I don't do a lot of yarn projects, and I finally thought of a way. There we go, there's the thesis. I saw someone online, I can't remember who now, so sorry, doing just very, very basic weaving using a piece of cardboard as their backing. And yeah, we're gonna do that. That might be the shortest intro to a video I've ever done. I usually have so much to say. I cannot for the life of me recall why we have this giant piece of cardboard. It had to have come in some, you know, furniture, I assume, packet. But I wisely saved it, because it's a good piece of cardboard. Recolta carta. I don't know what that means. I could have used this when I was doing the stump rug. Let's do like a 6x6, just for starters. Ow! So this is not something that I've done before, but it seemed incredibly simple, very straightforward. You just need some cardboard and straight pins, and then like your yarn, scissors, and then like a needle, a big plastic needle I think helps. You line up your straight pins up here. I think the like fancier version of this, or the step up, is using a piece of wood and nails. I don't know how close together I should aim, but for now, I'm not gonna worry about it. Because have I mentioned, the stakes are low. This is all about using up some leftover materials, doing something with my hands, exploring a new form of creativity. The stakes are so low, they're being grilled in the Earth's core. Like that, maybe? I think that'll work. And then you would just want the pins on the other side to line up with these. You would want the same number, and you'd want them to be pretty evenly across, you know? Yeah. Okay, I've got 15 on each side. Pretty evenly lined up. The height does not matter at all. So now we can choose a base yarn. I don't really feel the need to use the green stuff up because for some reason, we know the reason, moss, green is the color of yarn that I always want for stuff. But I feel like the base color doesn't get seen much in the end, so this might be a good time to use gray. Boring. No offense to people who like gray. And I'm just gonna tie a little knot around the first pin, and then we just weave around, I believe, each pin after that. Like you're just looping it behind and then back in front to create our warp. Yes, warp threads. I'm giving these a fair amount of tension, and I do not know if that matters whatsoever. Again, we'll find out now, won't we? I didn't bring scissors. Genius. And then I'll just knot the other side, I assume. That seems like it'll work. I feel like it could maybe be a little straighter and more even. It's kind of all leaning a bit. I don't know that that's gonna matter that much though. It doesn't matter, we'll see. Low stakes. I think I'll start with this yarn. I got it originally when I was making a macrame skirt, and this is all I have left. Oh wait, I think I have a bunch of short pieces of this somewhere. This is a great way to use up some short pieces. My antique Joanne bag. It's a relic. Yeah. Even better if I can use up all of this. I don't know that you need to secure the first piece at all, or if you should just leave a tail sticking out the end. I'm gonna go with the tail method, and I'm also gonna start with a really simple, just 1 over 1 under weaving method. We don't need to go crazy on the first one. From my observations of people weaving in various forms, it always seems like the really important part is packing it down really well, especially if you're going for like a solid fabric kind of weaving. So that's our first row, just over under the whole way, left a bit of a tail for myself, packed it down right to the edge as straight as possible. And now on the next one, since we just went under our last piece of yarn here, we'll go over it and weave the opposite way. The little hook on the end of this needle is quite helpful for this. There is a bird outside making the weirdest noises. Also, when I'm doing it with yarn this thick, you definitely do see the warp threads. So that's good to keep in mind as I go forward. But luckily, I think the gray looks really good with this color of yarn. So that's essentially it. We're just gonna do that over and over until the whole thing is filled up. Huzzah! Well, that was delightful and not too difficult, or not at all difficult. It turned out looking kind of sunset-ish. The ends on the side, I just kind of nodded to each other in the moment because I was like, yeah, I might as well secure them. But I'm pretty sure you're supposed to like weave them through the other threads on the back of the piece. And I quite frankly don't know at this point if I'm supposed to do anything specific. I'm just gonna start pulling the pins out and see what happens, you know? Why not? What could go wrong? But I think at this point, everything should be kind of held in place via tension and friction and things of that nature. And I think this is kind of the joy of doing it with cardboard and pins. That was so much easier than ripping a bunch of nails out of wood. Look at that! I made a little piece of fabric. I mean, that's pretty cool, y'all. It is pretty solid. It's fully packed in there. So I didn't just want to like do this just to be like, woohoo, I'm done. I did want to like make a thing. And I was trying to think, what could I make with small pieces of woven fabric like this? Fabric weights. For the last 4 years, I keep being like, oh, you should either buy or make some fabric weights. And I just keep not doing it. And then when I'm cutting out stuff on this table, I'm forever like grabbing my phone and a pot and like anything around the room to hold my fabric down. So I should just make some fabric weights, and I think these are perfect. So for this first one, I'm gonna try just sewing it into a tube and then cinching one end closed, and then I can fill it and cinch the other end, and it'll be kind of like a little cylinder candy sort of fabric weight. Yeah? Sure. So for starters, I should probably unknot these ends and actually weave them in. Okay, so then I think if I just start with a sort of, what is this called? Whatever that form of knot is, then I can just go back and forth through each of the little warp loops here, like so. Ta-da! Oh! So we maybe don't want to pull it that hard. There we go. Okay, so we got a little, well, I shan't say what it looks like, but before I close up the other end, I need to fill it with something kind of heavy. Let's see what I got in the pantry. Beans? I think rice is also a good idea, but that feels like it would need to be surrounded in something first. Like, I don't think I could throw it straight in here because it would come through the little holes eventually. I don't even know if it's a good idea to throw these straight in here. Oh my god, this has been here so long. Ew. This is probably a good way to use these up. I'm pretty sure I bought these beans like 5 years ago, and we've literally moved houses and taken them with us. Because in the end, I always just end up using canned beans so that I don't have to like soak them and cook them. But for some reason at some point in my life I was like, I think it's a good idea if we have some dried beans in the pantry. It's not a bad idea, just clearly we haven't used them yet. This could be a bad idea though. No, it's great, this is fine. Oh yeah, those aren't gonna come through, I don't think. Little Lago beans. So then I can just cinch the other side closed the exact same way. Probably should have prepped that before I filled this with beans. It's fine. My beans. Go back in there. Ta-da! We have a fabric weight. It's reminding me of a very crafty version of those speakers that were really popular for a while that were like pill-shaped. It's kind of adorable and I kind of love it. And it is also delightfully functional. This was fun. And you bet your britches we're gonna do more. You can't just have one fabric weight, you need more than one. I'm so pleased with this. If you're into using your resources, using up trash, getting creative with what you have on hand, then I'm guessing you're pretty frugal, and that frugality might extend itself to your personal finances, so allow me a moment to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Monarch. Monarch is a private, ad-free personal finance platform that helps you see not just the big picture, but also the little details of your financial situation. We're talking organization, y'all. My favorite thing. Organization you can access anywhere with both the web and mobile versions, and colorful organization at that. So pretty! Monarch has bank-level encryption and syncs with over 13,000 institutions, so if you have multiple accounts, credit cards, apps, passwords, methods of keeping it all clear in your head, Monarch can help you see all of it at once on one clean dashboard. This makes it a lot easier to not only see where your money is actually going, but also to set a flexible budget that works for you and work towards financial goals. There's even a shared view if you and a partner are working on the same financial goal together. If Monarch sounds right for you, start your free trial and get 50% off your first year of total money clarity by clicking the link in the description below, or use my code STITCHERY50 for 50% off of Monarch Core Tier. Thank you to Monarch for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to weaving. Okay, so I want to play around more with different weave styles rather than just over, under, over, under. But I also want to play around with some different shapes of the like final piece. For example, cube, pyramid thing. For some reason my brain wants to call this a rhododendron. I know that's a flower, but what's making that relate in my brain? I'm gonna start with cube because it's this shape, which is all still squared off, so theoretically, you can weave your warps just shorter and longer across like this, and then you would weave across like this, and then fold it all up and sew it together. Right? Right? Is this making sense? It's making sense to me. I just need cardboard that looks like that. And then I was originally planning to use all sorts of different yarn, which is why I got out all of this yarn and dumped it on the table. But now I'm kind of thinking maybe I should make it like a whole set out of all of this yarn, because I have all of this yarn. So then they'd all kind of match, like different shapes and different weaves, but the same yarn type. I tried tracing this T-tin to get the shape that I wanted, cause yay, already square, but it was looking very not lined up. So round 2, proper ruler, or whatever you call the triangle right angle rulers. I put the pins closer together on this one and really tried to line them up neatly. And then y'all, why is wrapping the warp threads on here so soothing and absolutely my favorite part of this? I just want to warp a ton. Forget the wefting. Well, no, we got a weft. So here we go, wefting it up. Did I say I was gonna do a twill style weave this time? Whoops. I went straight in with the over under and didn't even register that I had planned to do a different weave until I was up to the final sticky out bit, like 3/4 of the way through. Wait a minute. Oh well. Snack break! You're so cute. That's my chair. Squish, squish, squish. Can I have? Y'all, how distracted am I that I said I was gonna do a twill weave and then just immediately gave it no further thought. I mean, I guess I did have to like cut out the shape and do the warp and yeah, okay, that feels slightly better. Like 30 minutes had passed. If it had been like 3 minutes and I forgot that quickly, I don't know, that just would have been slightly more concerning. This is my snack. My snack. And my chair. I have so many ends to weave in. Boo! I'm already understanding why the knitters don't like that part. Gotta calm down. Ta-da! You see it? Sure. You can definitely tell that I put more warp threads on this one. There's a lot more gray, but I don't know that the feel of the material is much different from that. So I kind of prefer it with a little bit less of the warp. Like, it's so nicely even on this one. Also, side note, I am finding this so enjoyable to hold in like this is kind of unexplainable way. It's giving me the feeling of like weighted blanket. Obviously, I know it's just like a little thing, but like something about the weight of it is so nice because it's not at all heavy. Obviously, it's just a few beans, but it's just a nice amount of weight. It's making me think, one, Should I make my own weighted blanket? I've never actually used a weighted blanket, and I think I would love it, especially because I'm always cold. But on top of that, I used to pile like 6 blankets on top of me when I was a kid. Partially because I was cold, partially I think because I enjoyed the weight. But other thought, what do they put inside weighted blankets? What is the weight? Is it beans? I kind of want to make a weighted blanket that's just filled with dried beans. Then, you know, if really hits the fan, you could just open your blanket and you've at least got a few more meals in there. This is getting random. Let me weave in some ends. Ends woven. I did some very futz around and find out stitching to get this thing into roughly a cube shape. More like softly a cube shape. It's very rounded. Once it just had a little mouth open, I poured in the beans that I had left, which was already about the same weight as my first one, and plenty heavy. I kind of made this one giant. So I stuffed the rest with the yarn scraps that I'd piled up. Sewed the final hole closed, and oh my goodness, why am I loving these so much? It's such a fun process from start to finish, and they're so squishy and delightful. So naturally, the next morning I was right back at it. Time for the rhododendron. To make this pyramid-shaped thing, you start with an even-sided triangle, which also definitely has a name that I can't remember right now. Y'all, I swear, geometry has packed up its bags and moved out of my brain, which is crazy because that was actually my favorite type of math in school. Granted, I suppose it's able to leave my brain because it was there in the first place, whereas calculus and trigonometry and stuff, I just denied their lease applications from the start. How does one weave a triangle? Can you weave a triangle? I think so. I'm pretty sure this will work. I just chose one side as the bottom and then put the same number of pins from that side across the 2 others. So I think I had 23 total across the bottom, and then I stuck 1 in the top as the central pin and did 11 down each side. I had to adjust a few of the pin placement, but warped up it looked like this, and that seems like it'll work just fine. It did indeed work just fine, although one thing I realized while doing this third piece is that if you're using cardboard this thick, it actually does make a difference where you put your pins between those 2 outer layers, within the corrugation, you know? On the second one, I specifically made sure that they were all pretty close to that top outer layer, rather than centered between the 2, and this meant that my warp threads weren't super loopy when I took it all off at the end, whereas on this one, I forgot all about that and put the pins pretty centered, so I had larger loops of those gray threads on the sides when I finished the whole thing and took it off. It's just it made the whole material a little bit looser, I think. Or maybe it made the edges a little bit wonkier. Emphasis on the little bit here. It's a very tiny difference, but it was just something to note. Is it too big to munch? It's too big for munching. Mwah. My sweet potato. did not leave myself a very big hole for the bean pouring here. Cue bean spillage. Oh no. Once I had all 3 sides closed up, I considered leaving a little poof of yarn on top like a tassel, but I don't really want to highlight one point as the top. So instead, I wove the ends back through the piece, all in different directions, and cut them off. Do you want to join me? You kind of seem like you want to join me. Come here. Here we go. Y'all, why am I loving these so much? He doesn't like it when I talk to a camera. I think he gets jealous. I'm glad I tried the different shapes, but I also really did want to try the different weaves. So I made 2 more just on the regular square and turned them into more of these pill-shaped ones. First I did the twill weave, which is over 2, under 1, and then you offset that with every single row. Definitely led to like a less stretchy, more tightly packed, I think, fabric overall. And you see a little less of your warp threads, which makes sense since you're going over 2, under 1. And then for the last one, I just wanted to try something different. So I did over 2, under 2, but then each row offset by 1. And y'all, it boggled my brain a little bit. I actually had to pull some out on this one, especially because of the edges. I don't know what people do with like real weaving or like weaving on a loom or something, but you know, your pattern doesn't always perfectly line up with the edges. So I had to futz a little there, and then I would forget where I was supposed to go because of that futzing. So real mind tease this one, but it is my favorite ending fabric. I really like the way that this one looks. You get this fun diagonal stripe to it, and it's a really solid material too. It's definitely more solid than the regular over-under one, and it even feels a little more solid or thick, I guess, than the twill, though I'm not entirely sure why that is. The pill was just the best of the 3 because I stuffed the 2 ends with a little bit of my leftover yarn scraps that I got from this, and so it rounds them out a little bit better. So this is my favorite overall. But y'all, this whole thing was just such a fun little exploration, and now I have fabric weights, and they're adorable, and they're very tactile, and they're pretty. Also, I was going into this as like, I'm gonna use cardboard and leftover yarn bits, but I also used up 5+ year old beans, which technically, yeah, are pretty much trash too, because I don't think I was ever going to eat them because I wasn't sure how long they'd been in my pantry anymore. So, using up leftovers all around. However, I drastically underestimated, or overestimated? I overestimated how much yarn this would use up, because clearly I came out here and dumped all of this yarn on the table thinking, oh, we're just gonna dig right into my yarn stash. We're gonna use some stuff up. Y'all, I didn't even use up this. I still have more of the scraps. This barely uses any yarn. I think I would have to do much, much bigger weaving if I wanted to actually make a dent in my yarn stash. So Don't know that this exactly accomplished my original desire, but because it was so much fun, I absolutely would love to do more of it. Do you have any ideas? What else could I weave? If we're sticking with this, you know, very simple cardboard method, then I don't want to get too big, although this is very sturdy because it's such thick cardboard. So I think I could get a lot bigger. But the whole reason that I've never gotten into knitting and crochet is that I do not like wearing clothing made out of yarn. Like, I have basically had to get rid of all of my sweaters because it's just not a texture that I can handle anymore. So I was already like, huzzah, when I came up with fabric weights as an option for something I could weave. Do you have any other ideas? What is something that I could weave with my yarn that's not clothing? Because that was super duper fun. And I'd so love to do more. I'd love to get more complex. I mean, I don't see any reason why you can't do anything on this that you do on regular weaving. That's possibly because I don't know very much about weaving. So, you know, potentially I'm just full on hubrising here. Or maybe it's just audacity. So yes, suggestions. If you have any suggestions, I'll take them. Ugh, these three are so cute because they're all different weaves but the same shape. This was fun. Later, taters. Look how fluffy you are. He needs a bath. I didn't say anything. Nice. Let's pretend that we ended the video.